The government knows more about UFOs than you think. Imagine this. The night sky stretches endlessly above you, a canvas of stars shimmering like secrets waiting to be told. You've looked up countless times, wondering if someone, or something, is looking back. But what if I told you, the truth isn't just out there, it's been here all along, locked behind doors you'll never see, guarded by men who smile in press conferences while hiding entire universes behind classified stamps? Tonight, we peel back the layers of silence. We dive into the shadows where governments whisper, where files vanish, and where reality itself begins to fracture. This isn't science fiction. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is the story they never wanted you to hear. Let's start with a question that should terrify you. Why do governments fear the truth about UFOs? Is it because these objects defy physics? Because they mock our understanding of space and time? Or is it because revealing what they know would shatter the fragile illusion of control that holds our world together? Roswell, 1947. A desert town becomes ground zero for the greatest cover-up in modern history. The official story? A weather balloon. The real story? Fragments of something not made by human hands. Witnesses silenced. Evidence buried. And from that moment on, a pact was sealed. A pact of secrecy that spans decades, continents, and generations. But here's the part that gnaws at your sanity. Every time you laughed at UFO believers, every time you dismissed those grainy videos as hoaxes, someone in a government office was staring at footage that would make your blood run cold. Tic-tac-shaped crafts outrunning fighter jets. Objects plunging into oceans without a splash. Machines that accelerate from 0 to thousands of miles per hour in less than a second. And all of it, documented, analyzed, classified. Why hide it? Because the truth is too big, too destabilizing, too alien. Imagine waking up tomorrow and learning that we are not the apex species, that our physics textbooks are fairy tales, that the universe is stranger and more dangerous than we ever dreamed. This is not just about UFOs. It's about power, control, the psychology of secrecy. Governments don't just fear what's out there, they fear what happens down here when the truth comes out. Mass panic, religious collapse, the unraveling of social order. So they lie, they obfuscate, they drip-feed you fragments, conditioning you for a future they can't stop, but hope to manage. Tonight, we're going to explore the lies, the leaks, the whistleblowers, and the terrifying possibilities that keep generals awake at night. We'll journey through history's most chilling secrets, dissect the Pentagon's cryptic admissions, and confront the question that haunts every rational mind. If they've hidden this for 80 years, what else are they hiding? This is not entertainment. This is revelation. And by the time we're done, you'll never look at the night sky the same way again. The first lies. It began in the desert, a place where silence stretches for miles and secrets can be buried beneath endless sands. Roswell, New Mexico, 1947. A rancher stumbles upon strange debris scattered across his property. Metallic fragments that shimmer unnaturally under the sun, pieces that seem to whisper of something not born of Earth. He calls the authorities, expecting answers. Instead, he ignites a chain reaction that will echo through history. The official story? A weather balloon. Simple, harmless, forgettable. But the truth, if you dare to chase it, was far from simple. Witnesses spoke of bodies, not human, and wreckage that defied explanation. Military trucks rolled in under the cover of night, and by dawn, the desert was scrubbed clean, as if nothing had ever happened. The newspapers printed the government's version, and the world moved on. Or so they thought. Roswell was not an isolated event. It was the genesis of a doctrine, a philosophy of silence that would shape global policy for decades. The Cold War was brewing, paranoia thick in the air. The United States and the Soviet Union were locked in a deadly chess game, each move shadowed by the threat of annihilation. In such a climate, the idea of extraterrestrial visitors was not just unsettling, it was catastrophic. What if the enemy weaponized the truth? What if panic spread faster than reason? What if the very foundations of society cracked under the weight of revelation? And so, the first lie was told. Not because the truth was unknown, but because it was too dangerous to speak aloud. Project Blue Book emerged as the government's official attempt to investigate UFO sightings. Thousands of reports were catalogued, analyzed, and, more often than not, dismissed. Swamp gas, weather anomalies, optical illusions. The explanations were neat, clinical, and reassuring. But behind closed doors, the tone was different. Classified memos spoke of craft that outmaneuvered fighter jets, objects that appeared and vanished without a trace. The public saw skepticism, the insiders saw patterns. Why the secrecy? The answer lies in psychology. Humans crave certainty. We build our lives on the assumption that the world is knowable, predictable, safe. UFOs shatter that illusion. They introduce chaos into the equation. If something exists beyond our control, beyond our comprehension, then everything we believe about power, security, and dominance collapses. Governments understood this. They feared not just the unknown, but the human reaction to it. Consider the implications. Religion, the bedrock of moral order, could crumble under the weight of undeniable proof of alien life. Economies could spiral as markets react to existential uncertainty. Militaries could lose their grip on dominance if faced with technology centuries ahead of ours. In short, disclosure was not just a scientific revelation, it was a socio-political earthquake. So they lied. They buried evidence under layers of bureaucracy. They ridiculed witnesses, turning truth seekers into punchlines. They weaponized skepticism, ensuring that anyone who dared to question the official narrative was branded a fool. And the strategy worked. For decades, UFOs were relegated to the fringes of culture, tabloid fodder, science fiction fantasy, the obsession of eccentrics. But beneath the surface, the files grew thicker. The sightings continued. Pilots reported objects that defied physics. Radar operators tracked anomalies that vanished into thin air. And every time, the pattern repeated: deny, deflect, discredit. Roswell was the spark, but the fire spread globally. Britain had its own cover-ups. Russia buried its secrets deep within military archives. Even nations with no stake in Cold War politics adopted the same posture: silence at all costs. Why? Because the truth is universal, and universally terrifying. As you listen to these words, ask yourself, how much of your reality is curated? How many of your beliefs are scaffolds erected by those who fear your reaction to the truth? The first lie was told in 1947, but its echoes shape your world today. Every headline, every press release, every carefully worded statement about unidentified aerial phenomena is a descendant of that original deception. In this chapter, we peel back the layers of that first lie. We examine the psychology of secrecy, the calculus of fear that drives governments to obscure reality. We explore the mechanisms of control, propaganda, ridicule, and the slow drip of half-truths designed to pacify curiosity without surrendering power. Because here's the haunting question: if they lied about Roswell, what else have they lied about? And if the truth is stranger than fiction, how much stranger is the fiction they've fed us for generations? Prepare yourself. The desert may seem silent, but its sands are heavy with secrets. The Pentagon's quiet admissions. For decades, The official stance was unwavering. UFOs were a myth, a misunderstanding, a trick of the light. But then, something changed. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the language began to shift. The ridicule softened. The denials became less absolute. And in the sterile corridors of power, whispers turned into carefully worded statements. It began with leaks, grainy videos captured by military pilots, showing objects that defied every known law of aerodynamics. The infamous tic-tac footage, released not by conspiracy theorists but by the Pentagon itself, sent shockwaves through the public consciousness. Suddenly, the narrative was no longer about swamp gas or weather balloons. It was about unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs, a term deliberately chosen to sound clinical, detached, and devoid of the cultural baggage that UFO carried. Why the change? Because the evidence was undeniable. Pilots with thousands of flight hours reported encounters that left them shaken. Radar systems tracked objects accelerating at speeds no human craft could achieve. And the Pentagon, faced with mounting pressure, could no longer hide behind the old excuses. In 2020, the Department of Defense quietly established the UAP Task Force. Its mission: to investigate these phenomena and assess whether they pose a threat to national security. The announcement was buried in bureaucratic language, released without fanfare, as if hoping no one would notice. But people did notice. Researchers, journalists, and ordinary citizens began to ask questions. What had changed? Why now? Then came the 2021 report, a document that was supposed to bring clarity but instead deepened the mystery. 9 pages of cautious phrasing, hedged bets, and deliberate ambiguity. The report admitted that 144 incidents had been analyzed. Of those, 143 remained unexplained. Let that sink in. 143 cases where objects performed maneuvers beyond our technological capability, and the best minds in defense could not offer a definitive explanation. But here's where it gets interesting. The language of the report was a masterclass in obfuscation. Terms like insufficient data and limited information appeared repeatedly, creating the illusion of transparency while revealing almost nothing. The report acknowledged the existence of phenomena that defy explanation, but stopped short of drawing conclusions. No mention of extraterrestrials. No acknowledgement of advanced technology. Just a bland assertion that further analysis is required. Why so vague? Because words are weapons. In the realm of secrecy, language is a shield, a way to disclose without truly revealing, to admit without conceding. The Pentagon knows that every syllable will be dissected, every phrase parsed for hidden meaning. So they craft statements that say everything and nothing at once. Consider this. If the government truly had no idea what these objects were, wouldn't that be cause for alarm? Wouldn't they declare a state of emergency, mobilize resources, and demand answers? Instead, they issue reports that soothe rather than incite, that frame the unknown as a manageable curiosity rather than an existential threat. This is not ignorance, it is strategy. Behind closed doors, the conversations are different. Classified briefings speak of capabilities that make our most advanced fighter jets look like toys. Objects that hover without propulsion, accelerate without inertia, and vanish without a trace. Technologies that suggest not just superiority, but a paradigm shift, a rewriting of the laws of physics as we understand them. And yet, the public gets crumbs. A 9-page report. A few declassified videos. Carefully curated disclosures designed to spark interest without igniting panic. This is the art of controlled revelation, a psychological operation as much as a scientific inquiry. The Pentagon's quiet admissions are not acts of transparency. They are acts of preparation, conditioning, a slow drip of truth to acclimate the masses to a reality that cannot be denied forever. Because here's the truth they will never say aloud: if these objects are not ours, and every indication suggests they are not, then someone, or something, possesses technology centuries beyond our own. And that fact changes everything. In this chapter, we dissect the language of ambiguity. We explore the motives behind the UAP task force, the implications of the 2021 report, and the psychological calculus that governs disclosure. Because when the most powerful military on Earth admits it cannot explain what's in its skies, the question is not just what are they? The question is, what happens when we find out? Prepare yourself. The admissions may be quiet, but their echoes will shake the foundations of reality. Whistleblowers and leaks. For decades, the truth about UFOs was locked behind layers of classification, buried in vaults guarded by the most powerful institutions on Earth. But secrets have a way of leaking, like cracks in a dam that cannot hold forever. And when those cracks appear, they do more than spill information, they ignite revolutions of thought. Enter David Grush, a name that has become synonymous with the modern wave of UFO disclosure. A former intelligence officer with impeccable credentials, Grush stepped into the spotlight with claims that shook the foundations of secrecy. According to him, the US government has been running crash retrieval programs for decades, programs designed to recover and reverse engineer technology not of this Earth. His testimony wasn't whispered in the shadows, it was delivered under oath, before Congress, in a setting where lies carry consequences. Grush's revelations were not isolated. They were part of a growing chorus of voices, military pilots, radar operators, defense contractors, each offering fragments of a puzzle too vast to ignore. These individuals risked careers, reputations, and in some cases, their lives, to speak truths that governments have spent generations suppressing. Why? Because silence, they believed, was complicity. And complicity in a lie of this magnitude is a betrayal of humanity itself. But here's the question that haunts every disclosure. Are these leaks genuine acts of courage, or are they controlled releases, strategic disclosures designed to shape perception rather than reveal reality? The answer is as elusive as the phenomena themselves. Consider the timing. Grush's testimony came on the heels of the Pentagon's UAP report, a document that admitted ignorance while revealing almost nothing. The media coverage was intense but fleeting, dominated by headlines that framed the revelations as intriguing rather than alarming. Was this coincidence or choreography? In the theater of secrecy, timing is everything. Controlled leaks allow governments to manage the narrative, to acclimate the public to unsettling truths without triggering chaos. Then there are the videos, the grainy, infrared footage captured by Navy pilots, showing objects performing maneuvers that defy physics. These clips, released by the Department of Defense, were heralded as proof that the government was finally embracing transparency. But look closer. The videos are short, ambiguous, and stripped of context. They reveal enough to provoke curiosity, but not enough to provide answers. This is not full disclosure, it is a breadcrumb trail, leading us deeper into a labyrinth of uncertainty. Whistleblowers like Grush insist that the truth is far more shocking than the public realizes. They speak of craft stored in hangars, of materials that bend the laws of nature, of programs so compartmentalized that even presidents are kept in the dark. These claims, if true, suggest a reality so alien that our entire worldview would need rewriting. And yet, for every revelation, there is a counter-narrative, a chorus of skeptics who argue that these stories are fabrications, exaggerations, or psychological operations designed to distract from terrestrial agendas. The debate is fierce, and it cuts to the core of human psychology. We crave certainty, but the UFO phenomenon offers none. Instead, it dangles possibilities that range from exhilarating to terrifying. Are we on the brink of contact with an advanced civilization? Or are we pawns in a game of perception, manipulated by forces that understand the power of mystery? In this chapter, we explore the anatomy of a leak. We examine the motives of whistleblowers, the risks they take, and the forces arrayed against them. We analyze the role of media, how narratives are shaped, softened, and spun. And we confront the unsettling possibility that disclosure, when it comes, may not be the unvarnished truth we imagine, but a carefully curated version designed to serve interests we cannot see. Because here's the paradox: every leak brings us closer to the truth, yet every leak deepens the fog. And in that fog, questions multiply. If Grush is right, what else lies hidden in vaults and hangars? If the videos are real, what intelligence do they conceal? And if the government is orchestrating this slow drip of information, what endgame are they pursuing? Prepare yourself. The whistleblowers have spoken, but their voices echo in a chamber built to distort sound. Technology beyond human capability. Imagine a craft that accelerates from 0 to thousands of miles per hour in the blink of an eye, without producing sonic booms, without leaving exhaust trails, without obeying the laws of inertia. Imagine an object that hovers silently, then vanishes from radar as if slipping through the fabric of reality itself. These are not scenes from science fiction. They are documented encounters, witnessed by trained military personnel, captured on advanced sensor systems, and analyzed by the most powerful defense agencies on Earth. The Tic-Tac UFOs, so named for their smooth, oblong shape, have become the centerpiece of modern UFO discourse. First reported by Navy pilots during training exercises off the coast of California in 2004, these objects demonstrated capabilities that defy every principle of aerospace engineering. They moved with instantaneous acceleration, shifted direction without gradual turns, and hovered without visible propulsion. To engineers steeped in Newtonian physics, these maneuvers are not just improbable, they are impossible. Consider the implications. Our most advanced fighter jets rely on combustion engines, aerodynamic surfaces, and thrust-to-weight ratios carefully calculated to achieve controlled flight. The Tic-Tac craft, by contrast, appear to operate outside these constraints. No wings, no exhaust, no heat signature detectable by infrared sensors. And yet, they outperform every known aircraft by orders of magnitude. How? That question has haunted scientists, engineers, and military strategists for decades. Some speculate that these objects exploit principles of physics we have yet to discover, manipulating gravity, bending space-time, or harnessing zero-point energy. Others suggest technologies so advanced they render our understanding of propulsion obsolete. If these theories sound radical, consider this: every major breakthrough in human history, from electricity to quantum mechanics, was once dismissed as impossible. But here's where the story takes a darker turn. Whistleblowers and leaked documents hint at programs dedicated to reverse engineering recovered craft, projects buried under layers of secrecy, funded by black budgets, and shielded from oversight. If true, these efforts represent the most audacious scientific endeavor in history, an attempt to decode technology not of this earth and weaponize it for terrestrial dominance. The ethical implications are staggering. If governments possess fragments of alien technology, who controls it? Who decides how it is used? And what happens when such power is concentrated in the hands of a few? These questions strike at the heart of geopolitics, morality, and the future of humanity itself. Skeptics argue that the Tic-Tac phenomenon is misinterpreted data, a glitch in radar systems, an optical illusion amplified by human error. But this explanation collapses under scrutiny. Multiple sensor systems, radar, infrared, visual, converged on the same observations. Pilots with decades of experience reported encounters that defied every frame of reference. These were not hallucinations. They were events, recorded and verified. In this chapter, we delve into the physics-defying maneuvers that challenge our understanding of reality. We explore the theories, gravitational manipulation, quantum propulsion, interdimensional travel, that attempt to explain the inexplicable. And we confront the possibility that humanity stands on the threshold of a technological revolution, one that did not originate on Earth. Because here's the truth: if these objects are real, and all evidence suggests they are, then someone has solved problems that our brightest minds have barely begun to contemplate. And if that someone is not us, then the question becomes, what do they want? And how long before they decide to show us? Prepare yourself. The laws of physics are about to bend. Psychological warfare and UFOs. Fear is a weapon. Uncertainty is a battlefield. And in the shadowy corridors of power, UFOs have become more than a mystery. They have become a tool. Governments understand a fundamental truth about human psychology: the unknown terrifies us. It gnaws at the edges of reason, erodes the foundations of certainty, and leaves us vulnerable to suggestion. In times of crisis, fear can unify nations, or fracture them beyond repair. And what better instrument of fear than phenomena that defy explanation? Throughout history, secrecy has not merely concealed the truth, it has weaponized it. Consider the Cold War, an era defined by paranoia and brinkmanship. UFO sightings surged during this period, coinciding with unprecedented military experimentation and psychological operations. Was this coincidence? Or was it strategy? Documents declassified decades later hint at programs designed to exploit UFO narratives, not to reveal them, but to manipulate them. Imagine the calculus. If the enemy believes you possess technology beyond comprehension, deterrence becomes psychological as much as physical. Rumors of alien craft become whispers of invincibility. And in a world teetering on the edge of nuclear annihilation, perception can be as lethal as reality. But the manipulation runs deeper than geopolitics. It reaches into the collective psyche, shaping beliefs, behaviors, and cultural narratives. UFOs occupy a unique space in human imagination, a liminal zone between science and myth, reason and faith. They evoke awe and dread in equal measure. And in that emotional turbulence lies opportunity. Governments have long understood the power of controlled ambiguity. By neither confirming nor denying, they create a vacuum, a void that the human mind rushes to fill with speculation, fear, and fantasy. This is not transparency. It is orchestration. A psychological operation executed on a planetary scale. Consider the phenomenon of ridicule. For decades, UFO witnesses were mocked, marginalized, and dismissed. This was not accidental. It was systematic, a strategy to stigmatize inquiry and suppress discourse. By associating UFO research with lunacy, authorities ensured that serious investigation remained confined to the fringes. The result? A self-policing mechanism of silence, enforced not by law but by social scorn. Yet, paradoxically, the same institutions that ridiculed the phenomenon also fed it, through leaks, hints, and cinematic propaganda. Hollywood became an unwitting, or perhaps deliberate, partner in this psychological ballet, saturating culture with images of alien invasion, benevolent visitors, and cosmic terror. These narratives did more than entertain. They conditioned. They acclimated. They prepared the collective mind for a future disclosure or a future deception. Fear conditioning operates on a simple principle: repetition breeds familiarity, and familiarity breeds acceptance. By embedding UFOs in popular culture, governments transformed the unimaginable into the inevitable. So when the Pentagon releases a 9-page report admitting ignorance, the public does not riot. It shrugs. It memes. It moves on. But beneath this veneer of indifference lies a deeper unease, a primal recognition that something is amiss. Humans are hardwired to seek patterns, to impose order on chaos. When confronted with anomalies that defy categorization, we experience cognitive dissonance, a psychological discomfort that demands resolution. And in that discomfort lies vulnerability. Vulnerability to narratives. Vulnerability to control. In this chapter, we explore the anatomy of fear, the mechanisms by which uncertainty becomes a lever of power. We examine historical precedents, from MKUltra to disinformation campaigns, that reveal a chilling truth: the mind is the ultimate theater of war. And UFOs, whether real or fabricated, are actors in a drama scripted by those who understand that perception is reality. Because here's the question that should haunt you: if UFOs are real, what do they want? But if UFOs are a psychological weapon, what do we become when our fears are engineered? In both scenarios, the outcome is the same: control. Control of thought. Control of behavior. Control of destiny. Prepare yourself. The war for truth is fought not in the skies, but in the mind. The global cover-up. Secrecy is not an American invention. It is a global language, a dialect spoken fluently by every nation that understands the stakes of revelation. When it comes to UFOs, the silence is not isolated. It is coordinated. It is systemic. And it stretches across borders, oceans, and ideologies. Consider Russia. For decades, the Soviet Union maintained its own programs dedicated to the study of unexplained aerial phenomena. Declassified documents reveal a chilling truth: sightings were frequent, investigations were thorough, and conclusions were buried under layers of classification. Military pilots reported encounters eerily similar to those documented in the West: craft that defied physics, objects that appeared and vanished without warning. Yet, the official stance mirrored that of the United States: deny, deflect, discredit. Why? Because secrecy is a shield, a defense not just against the unknown, but against each other. In the high-stakes theater of geopolitics, information is power. And when that information pertains to technology that could rewrite the laws of warfare, the incentive to conceal becomes irresistible. China, too, plays its part in this global masquerade. In recent years, reports have surfaced of Chinese military units tasked with monitoring and analyzing anomalous aerial phenomena. The language of these reports is strikingly familiar. Phrases like national security threat and strategic advantage echo across continents, suggesting a shared understanding. Whatever these objects are, they represent a variable too volatile to expose. Then there is NATO, a coalition bound by mutual defense, yet fractured by competing interests. Within its ranks, whispers circulate of joint task forces, classified briefings, and protocols designed to manage encounters with the unknown. The alliance understands a fundamental truth: disclosure is not a unilateral decision. It is a domino effect. One nation's admission triggers a cascade of revelations, destabilizing alliances and reshaping global order. But here's the question that gnaws at the edges of reason: if these phenomena are real, and all evidence suggests they are, why the unanimity of silence? Why do adversaries and allies alike converge on the same strategy of obfuscation? The answer lies in fear, not just fear of the unknown, but fear of the known implications. Imagine the geopolitical calculus. If a nation possesses technology derived from non-human sources, it gains an advantage so overwhelming that traditional metrics of power become obsolete. Nuclear arsenals, aircraft carriers, stealth bombers, all rendered irrelevant by craft that traverse space-time with ease. In such a paradigm, secrecy is not merely prudent. It is existential. And so, the cover-up becomes a global enterprise, a conspiracy not of collusion, but of convergence. Independent actors, driven by self-preservation, arrive at the same conclusion: the truth is too dangerous to disclose. The result is a tapestry of silence, woven from threads of fear, ambition, and uncertainty. In this chapter, we peel back the layers of that tapestry. We examine the mechanisms of international secrecy, the treaties, the task forces, the unspoken agreements that bind nations in a pact of silence. We explore the psychological dimension of this cover-up, the recognition that humanity is not ready for a truth that shatters every paradigm of existence. Because here's the haunting possibility: the global cover-up is not a failure of transparency. It is a strategy of survival. And in that strategy lies a question that should chill you to the bone. If the truth is this dangerous, what does that say about the reality we inhabit? Prepare yourself. The silence is not accidental. It is engineered. And its architects span the globe. Theories that terrify governments. When we speak of UFOs, the mind instinctively leaps to extraterrestrials, beings from distant star systems, piloting craft across the cosmic ocean. But what if the truth is stranger still? What if the phenomena haunting our skies are not visitors from other planets, but manifestations of realities so alien to human comprehension that even the word alien feels inadequate? Among the theories whispered in classified briefings and debated in the hushed tones of think tanks, 3 stand out, each more unsettling than the last: simulation theory, interdimensional beings, and time travelers. These ideas do not merely challenge science, they dismantle the scaffolding of existence itself. And that is why governments fear them. Simulation theory, the digital cage. Imagine waking up to discover that everything, your memories, your sensations, your very sense of self, is code. A program running on a substrate beyond your perception. Simulation theory posits that our universe is not the ultimate reality, but a construct, a simulation designed by entities whose motives remain inscrutable. If UFOs are real, could they be glitches in the code? Or agents of the programmers, slipping through the seams of the simulation to observe their creation? The implications are staggering. Free will becomes an illusion. Morality becomes a parameter. And death? A reboot. For governments, this theory is a nightmare. Authority derives its power from the assumption of reality, from laws grounded in physics, from hierarchies anchored in permanence. If existence itself is negotiable, then power evaporates like mist. How do you govern a population that believes the world is a game? Interdimensional beings, the shadows between worlds. Now consider a different possibility. UFOs are not visitors from distant galaxies, but travelers from adjacent realities, dimensions layered like pages in a cosmic book. These entities do not cross space. They cross ontological boundaries, slipping between worlds as easily as we step through a doorway. Their craft, if that term even applies, may not move through air but through the fabric of existence itself. This theory explains the physics-defying maneuvers, the sudden appearances and vanishings, the accelerations that mock inertia. If these beings operate under laws alien to our universe, then our science is not just incomplete, it is irrelevant. And that terrifies governments, because control depends on predictability. You can negotiate with a nation. You can deter an army. But how do you bargain with entities that regard your reality as a transient shadow? Time travelers, the ghosts of tomorrow. The third theory is perhaps the most haunting. UFOs are not aliens at all. They are us, our descendants, returning from futures so distant they might as well be other worlds. Their motives? Observation, intervention, perhaps even correction. If true, this theory reframes every sighting as a message, a whisper from the future, encoded in the language of technology. But here's the paradox: if they are us, then disclosure becomes a temporal weapon. Knowledge of future technology could destabilize economies, ignite arms races, and fracture the timeline itself. Governments understand this. They fear not just the loss of control, but the collapse of causality, the unraveling of history under the weight of foreknowledge. Why these theories are suppressed. Each of these ideas, simulation, interdimensionality, temporal recursion, strikes at the heart of human identity. They erode the pillars of certainty upon which civilization rests. Religion falters. Science stumbles. Law disintegrates. And in the vacuum, chaos blooms. That is why governments do not merely conceal evidence, they suppress interpretation. They fear not just what UFOs are, but what they imply. In this chapter, we journey through these forbidden corridors of thought. We examine the philosophical tremors that ripple through the halls of power when reality itself becomes negotiable. And we confront the question that lurks behind every classified file. If these theories are true, then who, or what, holds the pen that writes existence? Prepare yourself. The truth may not lie in the stars, but in the spaces between, and in the echoes of futures yet to come. The human reaction to disclosure. Imagine waking up to a headline that shatters the foundation of your reality: "We are not alone." The words ripple through every screen, every voice, every thought. For decades, the question lingered at the edges of imagination. Now, it stands at the center of existence. The truth is out, and humanity is unprepared. Disclosure is not a single event. It is a psychological detonation, a blast wave that reverberates through every structure of society. Religion, science, politics, culture, each pillar trembles under the weight of revelation. Because this truth is not just about life beyond Earth. It is about the collapse of certainty, the unraveling of narratives that have anchored civilization for millennia. Consider religion. For billions, faith is the lens through which reality is interpreted, a framework that offers meaning, morality, and hope. What happens when that framework collides with undeniable evidence of non-human intelligence? Do doctrines adapt? Do hierarchies crumble? Or does belief mutate into something unrecognizable, spawning sects and schisms in a desperate bid to reconcile the irreconcilable? Science fares no better. For centuries, it has been the torchbearer of truth, illuminating the darkness with reason and empiricism. But UFOs, real, tangible, inexplicable, cast shadows that science cannot dispel. They mock our equations, defy our models, and expose the fragility of knowledge we once deemed absolute. In the wake of disclosure, the scientific community faces a paradox: to embrace humility or to cling to hubris. And in that tension, chaos brews. Then there is politics, the architecture of power built on the illusion of control. Governments derive legitimacy from their ability to protect, predict, and govern. What happens when they admit that control is an illusion? That skies teem with entities beyond their reach? The social contract fractures. Trust erodes. And in the vacuum, extremism thrives. But the most profound impact is psychological. Humans are pattern-seeking creatures, wired to impose order on chaos. Disclosure annihilates that order. It confronts us with a cosmos indifferent to our myths, our morals, our meaning. The result? Existential vertigo, a dizzying awareness of our insignificance in a universe vast beyond comprehension. History offers glimpses of this reaction. When Copernicus displaced Earth from the center of the cosmos, it triggered centuries of upheaval. When Darwin unveiled evolution, it ignited cultural wars that rage to this day. Disclosure is a Copernican revolution on steroids, a paradigm shift so seismic that its aftershocks will echo for generations. Some will respond with awe, a renaissance of curiosity, a surge of innovation, a hunger to explore. Others will spiral into despair, clinging to dogma or plunging into nihilism. And between these poles lies a spectrum of behaviors: panic buying, mass migrations, cult formations, violence. Because when reality fractures, so does identity. Governments know this. That is why they fear disclosure, not just for what it reveals, but for what it unleashes. The collapse of markets, the implosion of institutions, the contagion of chaos. And so, they manage the narrative, drip-feeding fragments, conditioning the collective psyche for a truth too vast to swallow whole. In this chapter, we explore the anatomy of reaction, the cognitive dissonance, the cultural convulsions, the psychological tremors that accompany the death of certainty. We examine the strategies of adaptation, the myths reborn, the sciences reinvented, the politics recalibrated. And we confront the question that looms like a shadow over the future: can humanity survive the truth? Prepare yourself. The moment of disclosure is not a revelation. It is a reckoning. Are we being prepared? Look around you. The signs are everywhere, hidden in plain sight, woven into the fabric of culture, whispered through the language of entertainment. For decades, UFOs have hovered at the edges of imagination, flickering across movie screens, bleeding into television plots, saturating the collective consciousness with images of alien craft and cosmic visitors. Is this coincidence? Or is it conditioning? Hollywood has long been the dream factory, a forge where myths are minted and realities rehearsed. From the flying saucers of the 1950s to the sleek starships of modern blockbusters, cinema has sculpted our expectations of the unknown. These narratives do more than entertain. They acclimate. They prepare. They teach us how to feel about contact, whether with awe, fear, or resignation. Consider the arc of these stories. Early films painted aliens as invaders, harbingers of doom descending upon a helpless Earth. Later narratives softened the edges, offering visions of benevolent visitors, cosmic saviors, interstellar diplomats. This evolution mirrors a psychological strategy: move the needle from terror to tolerance, from panic to curiosity. Because when disclosure comes, if it comes, the shock must be managed. But here's the question that gnaws at the edges of reason: is this preparation for truth, or preparation for control? Media is not a neutral mirror. It is a tool, a mechanism of influence wielded by those who understand the architecture of perception. By scripting the unknown, they shape our response to it. They teach us what to fear, what to trust, what to expect. And in that choreography lies power. Governments know this. That is why they partner with storytellers, consult on scripts, and seed narratives that align with strategic objectives. Declassified documents reveal a pattern of collaboration between intelligence agencies and entertainment industries, a symbiosis that blurs the line between fiction and propaganda. When you watch a film about alien contact, ask yourself, whose vision are you consuming? Whose agenda does it serve? Then there is the drip feed of official revelations, the slow, deliberate cadence of disclosure. A leaked video here. A cryptic report there. Each fragment stokes curiosity without igniting chaos. Each admission nudges the Overton window, expanding the boundaries of acceptable belief. This is not transparency. It is acclimatization, a psychological operation executed on a planetary scale. In this chapter, we explore the machinery of preparation, the cultural conditioning, the narrative engineering, the strategic ambiguity that shapes our collective psyche. We examine the role of media as a vector of influence, the interplay between fiction and fact, and the motives that lurk behind the curtain of disclosure. Because here's the haunting possibility: the truth may not arrive as a revelation. It may arrive as a script, a story rehearsed for decades, performed on the stage of global consciousness. And when the curtain rises, will we recognize the play? Or will we mistake choreography for reality? Prepare yourself. The conditioning is complete. The question is not whether we are ready for the truth. The question is whether the truth we receive is real or manufactured. Closing reflection. The night sky will never look the same again. You came here seeking answers, truths buried beneath decades of silence, whispers echoing through the corridors of power. And now, as we stand at the edge of revelation, one question lingers like a shadow: what else have they hidden? For 76 years, the narrative has been curated, sculpted, and weaponized. From Roswell's desert sands to the Pentagon's cryptic reports, from whistleblowers risking everything to Hollywood's shimmering illusions, the story of UFOs is not just a chronicle of sightings. It is a mirror held up to humanity's deepest fears and desires. We fear chaos. We crave control. And in that craving, we surrender to the architects of secrecy, the men and women who decide what we can know, what we must believe, and what we will never see. They tell us the truth is too dangerous, too destabilizing, too alien. But perhaps the real danger lies not in the truth itself, but in the silence that smothers it. Tonight, we have journeyed through the labyrinth, through lies and leaks, through theories that fracture the mind, through glimpses of technology that mocks our physics and whispers of realities that defy comprehension. We have seen how fear becomes a weapon, how uncertainty becomes a lever of power, how narratives are engineered to shape perception and pacify curiosity. And yet, for all we have uncovered, the core remains shrouded. The classified vaults stay locked. The architects of secrecy remain faceless. The truth, whatever it is, lurks beyond the horizon, indifferent to our yearning. So where does that leave us? It leaves us with questions, questions that gnaw at the edges of reason, questions that echo in the silence between stars. If they have lied for generations, what else have they lied about? If these phenomena are real, what do they want? And if disclosure comes, will it be revelation or choreography? Perhaps the most haunting question is this: are we ready? Ready to confront a cosmos that does not revolve around us, a reality that does not bend to our myths, a truth that does not care for our comfort? Because disclosure is not just an unveiling. It is an unmaking, a dismantling of certainties, a demolition of illusions, a rebirth into a universe vast beyond comprehension. Some will embrace that rebirth. Others will resist it. And in that resistance, chaos will bloom. Markets will tremble. Faiths will fracture. Identities will dissolve. Because when the scaffolding of certainty collapses, what remains is raw existence, naked, indifferent, infinite. Governments know this. That is why they fear disclosure. That is why they drip-feed fragments, condition the collective psyche, and choreograph narratives that soothe rather than shatter. They are not just hiding the truth. They are managing the apocalypse, the psychological cataclysm that erupts when reality fractures. But here's the paradox: the longer they hide, the greater the detonation. Secrets are not inert. They are volatile. And when they explode, they do not just destroy trust. They annihilate the architecture of meaning. So as you step away from this journey, carry this thought like a shard of glass: the truth is coming. Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But it is coming, because reality cannot be buried forever. And when it arrives, it will not knock politely. It will tear through the fabric of certainty like a blade through silk. The question is not whether you believe. The question is whether you are ready. Look up. The stars are watching.